Good morning, Lord. I rise today not because I am strong, but because you have carried me through the night. I wake with breath in my lungs and questions in my heart. Some of them shout, some of them whisper, all of them wait for you. Lord, my heart has been restless. It has paced the floors of worry, counted yesterday's mistakes, and rehearsed tomorrow's fears. But this morning, I lay them down at your feet. Calm my anxious heart, O God. Still the racing thoughts that tell me I am behind, that I am not enough, that the weight is too heavy to carry. Remind my soul that you have never asked me to walk alone. Fix my eyes on you, Lord, not on the noise of the world, not on the headlines of fear, not on the opinions that rise and fall like dust. Fix my eyes on the one who stands firm when everything else trembles. When my mind wanders to what might go wrong, gently guide it back to what you have already done right. When my spirit feels small, remind me that you formed me with intention and love. Lord, teach me to breathe again, to inhale your peace and exhale my fear, to move through this day, not in panic, but in purpose. I don't ask for a life without trouble. I ask for a heart that trusts you in the middle of it. I don't ask for easy roads. I ask for steady faith when the road bends. Let your light rise with this morning sun. Let it shine into every shadow I've carried from yesterday. Let hope stand up straight in my soul and say, today is still possible. Lord, if I stumble today,
catch me with your mercy.
If I doubt today, speak louder than my fear. If I grow weary, remind me that your strength is made perfect right where I feel weak. Fix my eyes on you when distractions pull at my spirit. Fix my eyes on you when comparisons try to steal my joy. Fix my eyes on you until my heart remembers where its true home is. Today I choose faith over fear, peace over panic, trust over control. I step into this morning, held, guided, and loved. And I walk forward knowing this. You go before me, you walk beside me, and you remain within me. Amen. The anxious heart does not announce itself politely. It rushes in before the sun has fully stretched across the sky. It rattles the windows of the mind, taps insistently on memory, and brings with it a long list of worries that demand attention before breakfast. Anxiety speaks in questions that have no answers yet, and in fears that feel urgent even when they are unseen. And so the first act of the soul in the morning must be this: to loosen its clenched fists and learn again the holy art of surrender. Surrender is not weakness, though the world may call it so. Surrender is courage dressed in humility. It is the brave admission that the human heart was never built to carry the weight of the universe. When we surrender our anxiety to God, we are not giving up on life. We are giving life back to the one who knows how to hold it. We are saying, I have carried this long enough and my arms are tired. We are saying, I trust you with what I cannot fix. Anxiety often comes from the illusion of control. It whispers that if we think hard enough, plan long enough, or worry deeply enough, we might somehow prevent pain, loss, or disappointment. But worry has never healed a wound or added an hour of peace to a restless heart. It only tightens the knot. Surrender loosens it. Surrender says, God, here is my fear of tomorrow, my regret from yesterday, and my unease about today. Take them, shape them, still them. There is a sacred honesty in laying anxiety before God, not polishing it, not hiding it behind polite prayers, but naming it plainly. Lord, I am afraid. Lord, I am overwhelmed. Lord, my thoughts will not be quiet. In that honesty, something holy happens. The anxious heart stops pretending to be strong and allows itself to be held. And it is in being held that the heart begins to calm. God does not scold the anxious heart. He does not turn away because fear showed up uninvited. Instead, he listens. He leans in. He meets trembling with tenderness. When we surrender our anxiety, we discover that God has been waiting patiently for us to stop running circles around our fears and to finally rest in His presence. Surrender also means releasing the need to understand everything at once. Anxiety demands answers now. Faith learns to wait. Faith understands that clarity often comes step by step, breath by breath. When we give our anxiety to God, we accept that some questions will remain unanswered for a season, and yet we will still be cared for. We learn that peace does not require certainty, it requires trust. The anxious heart often believes it is alone in its struggle. But surrender reminds us that we are not solitary travelers. God walks with us through the fog of uncertainty. He steadies us when our thoughts race ahead to imagined disasters. He reminds us that the future does not arrive all at once, and neither does His grace. It comes daily, fresh, sufficient. To surrender anxiety is also to forgive ourselves for being human. It is to stop punishing ourselves for not being stronger, braver, or calmer than we feel. It is to accept that fear is not a failure of faith, but an invitation to deeper reliance on God. When we surrender, we stop measuring ourselves by how well we cope and start measuring our lives by how deeply we trust. In surrendering anxiety, the heart learns a new rhythm. Instead of racing, it rests. Instead of grasping, it opens. Instead of rehearsing worst-case scenarios, it remembers past deliverance. It remembers the storms survived, the tears wiped away, the mornings that came after long nights. Surrender allows memory to become a witness to God's faithfulness. There is also freedom in surrender. Anxiety chains the heart to imagined outcomes. Surrender breaks those chains. It frees us to live fully in the present moment, to notice the warmth of the morning light, the steadiness of our breath, the quiet assurance that we are still here and still loved. When anxiety is surrendered, joy finds room to breathe again. Surrender is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, sometimes an hourly one. Anxiety may return, knocking again at the door of the mind, and each time it does, surrender answers with the same faithful response, "Not mine to carry alone." This repetition is not failure. It is faith in motion. Each surrender strengthens the soul's trust. In giving our anxiety to God, we acknowledge a profound truth that peace is not something we manufacture, but something we receive. It flows from relationship, not effort. It settles into the heart when we stop fighting the tide and allow ourselves to be carried by grace. So the anxious heart learns to bow, not in defeat but in devotion. It learns to whisper prayers instead of worries. It learns that surrender is the doorway through which peace enters. And in that surrender, the heart finds what it has been searching for all along: rest, reassurance, and the quiet confidence that it does not have to face the day alone. The world is loud before it is wise. It wakes us with notifications, opinions, and demands that clamor for our attention like children pulling at a sleeve. It tells us what to fear, who to admire, what to chase, and what to become before we have even finished our first breath of the morning. In that noise, the soul can easily lose its center. And so the sacred work of the day begins with a deliberate turning of the eyes away from the chaos and toward God. To fix one's eyes on God is not merely a metaphor. It is a discipline of the heart. It is a quiet decision to choose one focal point in a scattered world. Just as the body stumbles when the eyes dart in every direction, the spirit falters when it tries to follow every voice. Focusing on God brings alignment. It steadies the inner life. It gives the heart a place to rest its gaze when everything else shifts. Distraction promises excitement, urgency, and relevance, but it rarely offers peace. Fear headlines itself as information. Comparison dresses up as motivation. Opinions parade as truth. When we fix our eyes on these things, our hearts begin to mirror their instability. Anxiety grows. Confidence shrinks. Purpose blurs. But when the eyes turn toward God, the heart remembers who it belongs to and where it is anchored. Fixing the eyes on God means choosing His perspective over the world's commentary. The world tells us we are only as valuable as our productivity, our appearance, or our applause. God speaks a quieter, truer word. You are valued because you are mine. When the eyes are fixed on Him, this truth sinks deep, silencing the restless need to prove ourselves. There is courage in sustained focus. It takes courage to look away from what everyone else is staring at. It takes courage to resist the constant pull of comparison, to stop measuring our lives against curated images and borrowed standards. Fixing the eyes on God frees us from the exhausting race of imitation. It invites us to live as our authentic selves, shaped by divine intention rather than public approval. Focus on God also reorders time. When the eyes are fixed on immediate problems, every moment feels urgent and patience wears thin. But when the eyes are lifted to God, time stretches, perspective widens. We begin to see our challenges as chapters rather than conclusions. We remember that God works beyond deadlines and does not panic over delays. This vision allows the heart to breathe. The act of fixing one's eyes is often a repeated redirection. The gaze wanders. The mind drifts. Fear waves its hand. And again we choose to return. This returning is not weakness, it is faith practiced daily. Each redirection strengthens spiritual muscle. Each refocusing deepens trust. When the eyes are fixed on God, fear loses its authority. Fear thrives on uncertainty and isolation. But God offers presence and promise. In His presence, fear finds no permanent home. It may knock, but it cannot stay. The eyes that look toward God begin to see beyond immediate threats to enduring truth. They learn to distinguish between what feels powerful and what truly is. Fixing the eyes on God also sharpens vision. It clarifies what matters and what does not. Small offenses lose their grip. Temporary setbacks lose their sting. The heart learns to invest its energy in what nourishes the soul rather than what drains it. Focus becomes a form of stewardship, guarding the inner life with intention. There is a tenderness that comes with sustained focus on God. The harsh edges of the world soften. Compassion grows. Judgment loosens. When we behold divine mercy, we learn to extend it. When we fix our eyes on grace, we become more gracious. Our vision shapes our character. This focus does not remove us from the world. It equips us to move through it with clarity. Eyes fixed on God can still see injustice, pain, and need, but they see them through the lens of hope rather than despair. They see possibilities where others see dead ends. They see dignity where others overlook worth. In fixing our eyes on God, we also learn to listen. The world shouts, but God speaks in a still, steady voice. Focus creates the silence necessary to hear guidance, correction, and comfort. It allows wisdom to rise above impulse. Decisions made with this vision carry peace even when they are difficult. The eyes fixed on God learn to trust what they cannot yet see. Faith becomes sight in its own way. It perceives promises before they manifest and believes in outcomes shaped by love rather than fear. This trust does not deny reality, it transcends it. And so day by day the soul practices this holy focus. It lifts its gaze. It turns away from distraction's glare and toward the steady light of divine presence. In that gaze the heart finds direction. In that focus the spirit finds strength. And in fixing its eyes on God, the soul discovers a clarity that no noise can steal. Morning arrives like an open hand. It does not demand, it invites. With the first light comes a quiet question asked of every soul: how will you live today? Before the world makes its requests, before fear clears its throat, before yesterday tries to reclaim its space, there is a moment, brief, sacred, and powerful, where a choice can be made. This choice does not depend on circumstances, strength, or certainty. It depends on willingness. It is the choice to trust. Choosing peace and trust each morning is not a denial of hardship. It is a declaration of alignment. It is the soul standing upright and saying, I may not control what comes my way, but I choose how I meet it. Trust does not wait for proof. It steps forward with faith as its companion. Peace does not wait for everything to be resolved. It settles in the heart as an act of courage. Fear is often the first voice we hear upon waking. It reminds us of unfinished tasks, fragile relationships, uncertain futures. It tells us what could go wrong before we've even stepped out of bed. But trust answers fear with a gentler, stronger voice. Trust says, I have been carried before, and I will be carried again. To choose trust in the morning is to interrupt fear's rehearsal and replace it with remembrance. Peace, too, is a choice. Not the fragile peace that depends on perfect conditions, but the deep peace that comes from rooted confidence in God's presence. This peace does not flinch at difficulty. It sits calmly in the middle of unanswered question. It is not loud or dramatic, it is steady. Choosing this peace is an act of spiritual maturity, a refusal to allow panic to dictate the tone of the day. Every morning offers a fresh beginning, even when life feels heavy with repetition. Choosing trust does not mean forgetting yesterday's pain. It means refusing to let it define today's possibilities. Trust lifts its eyes beyond the immediate horizon and believes there is more ahead than what lies behind. It believes that God's mercy did not run out overnight. This daily choice requires intention. Trust does not grow by accident. It grows through repetition, through consistent turning toward God when the heart would rather cling to control. Each morning the soul practices letting go again. It releases the illusion that it must manage every outcome and accepts the truth that it is guided, not abandoned. Choosing peace is also a form of resistance. It resists the culture of urgency that demands constant anxiety as proof of importance. It resists the idea that rest is weakness and calm is complacency. Peace says, I will move at the speed of grace. It honors the body's need for breath and the spirit's need for stillness. Trust reshapes how we face uncertainty. Instead of bracing for disaster, trust opens the heart to possibility. It does not promise ease, but it promises presence. Trust understands that God is not only found at the destination, but in every step along the way. With this understanding, the journey becomes less frightening and more meaningful. Choosing trust also changes how we speak to ourselves. The inner dialogue softens. Harsh judgments are replaced with compassion. The voice that once criticized now encourages. Trust teaches the soul to be patient with its own growth, to celebrate progress rather than punish imperfection. Peace, chosen daily, becomes a companion rather than a condition. It walks beside us into meetings, conversations, and quiet moments. It steadies the voice when emotions rise. It anchors decisions in wisdom rather than impulse. This peace does not numb feeling, it clarifies it. There will be mornings when trust feels fragile, when peace seems distant. On those days, the choice may feel small, simply breathing, simply whispering a prayer, simply refusing to give fear the final word. These small choices matter. They are seeds planted in the soil of the heart, growing quietly into resilience. Choosing peace and trust each morning is not about perfection. It is about posture. It is the posture of a soul that leans toward hope rather than despair. It is the posture of a heart that believes God is still at work, even when progress feels slow. This daily choice transforms ordinary days into sacred ones. It infuses routine with meaning. It turns mornings into moments of renewal. When peace and trust are chosen at the start of the day, they influence every step that follows. They shape reactions, guide responses, and soften challenges. In choosing trust, the soul learns to walk without needing to see the entire path. It trusts the light given for today and believes more will come when needed. In choosing peace, the heart learns to remain centered even as the world spins. And so each morning the invitation remains. Choose faith over fear. Choose calm over chaos. Choose trust over control. This choice, made again and again, becomes a way of life. And in that way of life, the soul discovers a quiet strength that carries it through every rising sun. There is a strength that does not announce itself with noise or spectacle. It does not boast or demand recognition. It arrives quietly, steady as breath, faithful as the sunrise. This strength is found not in self-sufficiency, but in presence, in the abiding, unshakable presence of God. When the heart learns to rest in that presence, it discovers a power that does not fade when circumstances change. To find strength in God's presence is to realize that we were never meant to draw from our own reserves alone. Human strength is finite. It frays at the edges when tested too long. But divine strength is a well that does not run dry. When we lean into God's presence, we tap into a source beyond ourselves, a strength that meets us precisely where we are, not where we pretend to be. God's presence is not distant or abstract. It is intimate and near. It walks with us into ordinary moments, into kitchens and workplaces, into quiet rooms and crowded streets. It does not wait for grand gestures or perfect prayers. It shows up in the small, sincere turning of the heart, and in that turning, strength is renewed. When the weight of the day feels heavy before it even begins, God's presence becomes a refuge. It shelters the weary mind and steadies the trembling spirit. In that presence, we are reminded that we do not have to carry every burden alone. The load lightens not because the task disappears, but because the support increases. Strength found in God's presence is not the absence of fear, but the ability to stand even when fear remains. It is the courage to take the next step despite uncertainty. It is the calm that settles in the chest when logic offers no reassurance. This strength does not rush us. It reassures us. There are moments when life presses hard, when the soul feels stretched thin, and the heart wonders how much more it can endure. In those moments, God's presence becomes a sustaining force. It whispers, "You are not abandoned." It reminds us that endurance is not born from willpower alone, but from connection to something greater. God's presence also restores dignity to the weary. It affirms worth when exhaustion tries to convince us we are failing. It speaks value into places where self-doubt has taken root. In that presence, we remember that we are seen, known, and cherished, not for what we produce, but for who we are. This strength reshapes how we face challenges. Instead of meeting difficulty with panic, we meet it with partnership. We stop asking, "How will I get through this?" and begin asking, "How will God walk with me through this?" The question itself becomes a doorway to peace. God's presence teaches us to pause. In a world that glorifies constant motion, this pause becomes revolutionary. It allows the soul to breathe and the mind to clear. In stillness, strength is replenished. In silence, wisdom rises. There is also healing in God's presence. Old wounds find gentler care. Heavy memories lose their sharpness. The presence of God does not erase the past, but it redeems it, weaving pain into purpose and loss into deeper compassion. Strength in God's presence also fosters humility. It reminds us that asking for help is not a failure but a faithful response. It frees us from the pressure to appear invincible and invites us to be honest about our limits. In that honesty, strength multiplies. This presence stays when others cannot. It does not leave when emotions fluctuate or when progress stalls. It remains constant, a steady companion through seasons of change. Knowing this constancy gives the heart courage to face uncertainty without collapse. God's presence also empowers compassion. When we draw strength from Him, we have more to give to others. We become slower to judge and quicker to understand. Strength rooted in presence does not harden the heart, it softens it. There are days when strength feels invisible, when we move through life simply surviving. Even then, God's presence holds us. Strength may look like getting out of bed, speaking a kind word, or choosing not to give up. These quiet victories are no less powerful. To find strength in God's presence is to accept an invitation to live connected rather than isolated, supported rather than strained. It is to believe that no matter how demanding the path, we do not walk it alone. And in that companionship, the soul stands taller. The heart grows steadier. Life becomes less about striving and more about abiding. In God's presence, strength is not forced. It is received. And that received strength carries us gently and faithfully through every step of the journey. Every morning carries a promise wrapped in light. It arrives softly, touching the edges of the day with possibility. Even when the night has been long, even when sleep was restless and dreams were heavy, the morning still comes bearing hope. To begin the day with hope and purpose is to recognize this gift, to open the hands of the heart and receive what the dawn offers anew. Hope is not naive optimism. It is resilient belief. It is the quiet assurance that life still holds meaning, even when circumstances argue otherwise. Starting the day with hope does not deny the presence of struggle. It declares that struggle will not have the final word. Hope lifts the eyes beyond immediate concerns and reminds the soul that something good can still grow in the soil of today. Purpose gives direction to hope. Without purpose, hope can drift, untethered and fragile. Purpose grounds the heart. It whispers, "You are here for a reason." When the day begins with purpose, even ordinary moments take on significance. Tasks become offerings. Conversations become opportunities. Time becomes sacred. Beginning the day with hope requires intention. The world often greets us with cynicism, urgency, and doubt. It measures success by speed and worth by visibility. Hope resists these measures. It chooses depth over display. It chooses faith over fear. Purpose resists aimlessness. It invites the soul to move through the day with awareness rather than reaction. Hope teaches the heart to expect goodness without demanding perfection. It allows room for joy to appear in unexpected places. A smile exchanged, a problem eased, a moment of clarity. When hope leads the morning, the heart becomes attentive to these small miracles, recognizing them as signs of grace. Purpose also offers resilience. When challenges arise, and they will, purpose provides a reason to continue. It reminds us why we started, why we care, why we endure. Purpose does not eliminate difficulty, but it gives difficulty context. It transforms obstacles into lessons and setbacks into teachers. Starting the day with hope and purpose also reshapes identity. We stop defining ourselves solely by what we lack or what we have lost. Instead, we define ourselves by what we are becoming. Hope looks forward with courage. Purpose walks forward with intention. Together they form a powerful compass for the soul. Hope opens the heart to possibility. It refuses to believe that yesterday's failures dictate today's outcomes. It trusts that growth is still available, that healing is still underway, that progress is still possible. Each morning becomes a blank page waiting to be written with new choices. Purpose sharpens focus. It helps the soul discern what deserves energy and what can be released. With purpose, we learn to say no without guilt and yes with conviction. We move through the day less scattered, more centered, guided by values rather than impulses. There is humility in beginning the day with hope and purpose. It acknowledges that we do not know everything that will happen, but we trust that our steps can still be meaningful. It recognizes that control is limited, but influence remains. This humility frees the heart from unnecessary pressure. Hope and purpose also foster gratitude. When the day begins with expectancy, the heart is more inclined to notice blessings. Gratitude becomes a natural response, grounding hope in appreciation and anchoring purpose in contentment. This gratitude nourishes the spirit, making it more resilient to disappointment. Beginning the day with hope does not mean ignoring pain. It means carrying pain with tenderness rather than bitterness. Purpose ensures that pain is not wasted. It becomes part of a larger story, shaping empathy and wisdom. Through this lens, even sorrow contributes to growth. Hope and purpose invite courage. Courage to try again. Courage to speak truth. Courage to love deeply. Each morning becomes an opportunity to practice bravery in small, meaningful ways. These acts accumulate, building a life marked by intention rather than regret. There are days when hope feels faint, when purpose feels blurred. On those days, starting the day may simply mean choosing not to give up. That choice, small as it may seem, is an act of hope. Purpose can be as simple as getting through the next hour with integrity and kindness. To begin the day with hope and purpose is to participate in renewal. It is to believe that each sunrise carries potential for growth, learning, and connection. It is to walk into the day not as a victim of circumstance, but as a participant in life's unfolding. And so, morning after morning, the soul rises. It lifts its eyes to the light. It gathers hope like breath and carries purpose like a steady flame. With these companions, the day opens wide, inviting the heart to step forward, awake, aware, and ready to live with meaning.